Welcome to the Own Your Best Life podcast. I'm May Emson, your host, leadership and mindset coach. Here, we talk all things spiritual, mindset, business, leadership, and wellness for the modern seeker who wants to align their life with purpose and inspiration. We'll cover career changes, stress management, meditation, energy, intuition, and more. Each episode holds spiritual and practical tools to help you live a life of your wildest dreams without getting burnt out along the way. Ready to live a life on your own terms? This is the Own Your Best Life podcast.
Welcome, friends, to episode number 101 of the Own Your Best Life podcast. So if you've ever felt like you were spending too much time at work and not enough time at home or in your personal life, you've likely considered whether or not you're making the right choice. My career, my family, and what about those who feel like they're spending too much time in their personal lives or at home and not enough time working and making progress there? And if you're in that camp, you're also likely wondering if you're making the right decision. Either way, today's topic on asking that question about the right mix of personal and professional life is about stopping the guilt spiral that plays on loop in our minds. So there is this paradox of opportunity that exists. And I remember just after having our first daughter, I had a lot of questions over how to raise our kids, knowing that both my husband and I had fairly intense jobs. Your whole identity starts to shift and you try to figure out what and how to structure your life so that you can make time for this whole new existence. And we were both consultants that traveled 100% of the time, and we're expected to be obviously exceptionally committed to our client work. And after the birth of our first daughter, I made the move to prioritize working locally in New York City so I wouldn't have to travel. And that's where we lived. And I was working with local clients, but my husband was still traveling each week for work. And I wasn't sure how it would all continue, how it would all fit together. We had this very perfectly maneuvered jigsaw puzzle that worked, but only if pieces worked together a certain way. And coming back to work, I realized that childcare, negotiating hours, and locations were of the utmost importance. I thought to myself, okay, well, maybe if you have the right setup, you have a nanny that has flexible hours, you have work that could be somewhat flexible, or you could leave at a certain time, or you were close enough to it, perhaps we don't have to make a choice. And I also had what many people didn't, which is an opportunity to work. And I don't take that opportunity to work very lightly. And you might resonate with this, whether it's because you have opportunities your parents didn't, or because you've put so much time and effort into your careers already. We feel so much fulfillment when we make progress, when we excel and create an income and a life for ourselves. It is amazing, right, that you can do this. And it is addicting when you are succeeding and you are creating teams and organizations and workplaces and communities and businesses and companies and careers, and this feeling of certainty and stability, of variety and recognition from your work. They are all so hugely rewarding. And when we're faced with the idea of making time for family or personal relationships, we wonder if it's worth it. And this is often the case when you have spent a lot more time in one place versus the other. And if you are, for example, spending a lot of time at work, you might have a number of beliefs that you are up against. And I wanted to share these because I think when we are starting to unwind this idea of changing the way we live, many times you don't think it's even possible. And I want to share with you why you might feel that way, why it's so hard to do the thing that we know to do, which is I should be spending more time in my personal life for many reasons, and I don't know why I'm not. So For example, here are a few beliefs that you might be thinking. I should be grateful for the work I have. I remember I thought this one a lot. I need to work even harder than those around me to succeed at the same levels. Working is the best way to care for myself, others, and even my current or future family. I'm good at my work. I don't feel like I'm as good in my personal relationships. It's not easy or fun to spend time with family or create relationships. I don't want to give up what I've worked so hard for already. I don't want to waste my opportunity or time or the education that I have. I don't really know what I would do with my spare time. Spending time with others or my personal life can actually hurt my career. Right? So those are a whole host of beliefs. You might not believe all of them. You might only believe one of them. And even though you might believe one or maybe all of these, there is likely a part of you that also knows you should have and you want to have more to your life than just work. And you know that at some point that the balance has stopped tipping in your favor, or they will stop tipping in your favor. You start to realize that you only have so much time left. You can put in a lot more with your career and get a lot back. But you also know that you've underinvested in a big part of your life. You feel behind. And that part of your life is your relationships or your personal life. And like any well-diversified portfolio, you see you haven't been as diversified as you thought you were. And I think one of the things we forget is that we can start to see that in our home lives, the way we're working isn't sustainable. We feel like we're running, we're chasing, we're feeling behind, even though we are moving very quickly in our work. We feel a little bit behind. And I talked to many, many achievers in the space of trying to figure out how to rebalance their lives. And many times they say that they can't even see a way out. They don't even know what it would look like. They feel like everything has to go. And when it's so extreme, it feels incredibly hard. Many times they don't even see that there are ways to structure their lives to be much more efficient, to be productive, to be there for the important relationships and still have their careers, to be able to make time to create relationships if that hasn't happened already, to nurture them, to continue to grow them. And the thing that happens is that you might think, okay, let me change my job, and I'll change my job and this will change my work. And if I change my job, my work will feel better and I will suddenly not have this question on my mind of this balance of work or personal life. But no matter where you go, what company you go to, you take yourself with you. And wherever you go, there you are. And so whatever patterns you have eventually come back. And these can be really messy. And what we do is we try to clean things up so the patterns aren't so messy. And for myself, it was only when I faced the deaths of several loved ones and I began to get a much more intimate view of death did I begin to truly question how I was spending my time. I think there's a certain component of death that has someone start to realize that life is short. And that's when you start to ask yourself, are you spending time in the places that you want? And sometimes we don't need a wake-up call to come to that realization. Sometimes you just see that people have different kinds of lives than you, and it makes you start to wonder. It makes you start to question. Maybe you travel somewhere, you meet someone, you catch up with people, and you realize that different things have happened for each one of you. And that is my hope for you all, that you don't have to have a wake-up call. Sometimes all we need is to acknowledge our own intuition, our thoughts about how scattered or ungrounded we feel outside of our work life, to know that something is amiss. It's not always about the time. I think that's a key piece because we are time-starved individuals. Time's our most precious resource. We think, how can I devote half my time to something else? Or how much time do I need to give in order for this thing to work? And I used to wonder if there was a magic number of hours that I should be spending with my kids. What is that right number? And why did I want that number? It's because I wasn't sure if I was doing it right. And there's almost no place in our lives other than our relationships and our personal lives where we can feel so much uncertainty. Even when our work is uncertain, we have some idea of the possibilities, or we know that if we put our attention and we focus on certain things, we're going to see progress. But our personal lives, our relationships in our personal lives rarely feel straightforward. Human beings have this way of constantly changing and not being as easily controlled. So if I put in all this time and effort, do I know it's going to pay off? And that's the question we ask ourselves. And I want to introduce you to that question because that's likely sometimes what we're looking at is the payoff. When I work with clients on the topic of rearranging their lives to make space for other parts of their lives to grow, it can feel scary. And a lot of times they don't even ask to do that because they don't even think it's necessary until we start digging into some other areas and realize that one of the reasons they're not as an effective leader as they want to be is because they haven't also cleaned up their thinking in their own life. You see, this messiness that we have in our personal lives can sometimes show up in our professional lives, whether we realize it or not. I'm not saying messy in terms of like you're actually got disorganization in your personal life, but this idea of having these feelings and these nagging thoughts of, something is not right here and I need to address it. That's the same kind of thinking that can exist in our businesses. So the same kind of cleaning up of our thinking that I will do with a client in their business and in their minds for their business and the decisions that they're making, we also need to do in their home lives, in their spiritual lives, in their physical health lives. These things come and they exist in all of these different aspects. So making space for all of this to exist is very similar decision-making processes. And when you're doing something you haven't done before, it can feel scary. Yet, if you feel as much satisfaction and joy from your work as you do today, I can tell you that the amount of satisfaction and joy that you will receive from building incredible relationships with other human beings can be 10 times greater than even that feeling. And so we go back to this idea of, is there a right mix? And the main question isn't, is there a right mix? The question is, what is the right mix for me? And what do I want and why? We go around thinking that there's actually one way to be, which is why we ask the question, well, how many hours do I need to spend? Or what do I exactly need to do? When in fact, there are many ways to be. Ask anyone who has lived for advice, and they'll give you their own unique perspective. So your mix of personal and professional time is not predetermined. 1 hour here versus 1 hour there is not the reason you will succeed or fail. You will likely fail. You will, right? It's not this case of you won't fail. You will likely fail. You'll fail first. You'll feel the effects. You're going to feel the imbalance one way or the other. You're going to feel the uncertainty one way or the other. You're going to feel and see the missed opportunities. Life is about choices. We're constantly making choices even if we think we're not. Yet on the other side of that search, of that asking for what your appropriate mix of personal and professional life is right now, that search is a life where you're living with much more intention and much less guilt or regret. And what would it feel like to actually do what you know to do, to make progress in both places, and to not feel like you've given up years of your career or your personal life? And this is entirely possible because no matter where you are today, you can improve your quality of life. You can improve your quality of life. But if we truly want to change, you have to allow some things to exist for a period of time. So I'm going to give you a few of these thoughts as we wrap up, because these things need to occur, need to be believed, need to be allowed in order for you to actually start to shift your life where you feel like you can make progress in both your personal and professional life at the same rate and with the same level of fulfillment. So you're not trading one just for the other. Okay, here are the things you need to know. You have to allow yourself to expose yourself to your own thinking, and you need to be able to say, I'm not as clear here, right? The second one is you have to allow yourself to feel uncertain, to not be good at something. Right? Which ties into the third one. You have to allow yourself to fail at work. You have to be able to make a choice that is balanced now or tips towards your personal life and see that failure is also possible. The fourth one is you have to allow yourself to fail in your personal life. Sometimes you're going to make choices that are not so great for your personal life. You also have to be there to be able to witness those and be willing to see that as well. And then the fifth one is you have to allow yourself to be a work in progress. To not beat yourself up because you aren't done or perfect or already there yet. There's so much guilt that we carry thinking that if only we did this or we spent this amount of time here, well, I should have spent this amount of time there. All that goes away. If we know to do something better and we see exactly why and what to do, we do it. If we don't know, then we figure it out, right? We sit with things until we come to an answer, and we don't judge ourselves in the process, because judging ourselves doesn't allow us to see the solutions as clearly. And it doesn't allow us to actually examine where we might have made mistakes and identify what it is we want to do. And it also doesn't allow us to have self-compassion. So the question, when you start to ask yourself, well, what's that right mix of personal life and work? Instead of copying what everyone else is doing, we're going to craft what's right for you. We're going to create a life where you have space to grow in both areas based on your goals, your priorities, what has the most impact on your life today. And it's not a one-size-fits-all type of thing. Life design is very unique and tailored, but there are principles that you apply that make it so much easier. And I teach you this process when we work together, because when you are a leader in your personal life, you lead much more effectively in your work life, and vice versa. We have clean lives in both places. You are only one step away, my friends. I want you to realize that no matter where you are today, so much can change in 1 year, let alone 5 years. I've seen it for myself in my own life and with the clients that I've worked with as well. And if you're feeling like you want to remix your mix of personal and professional life, there's no time like today to start. And you're going to start first by figuring out what you want and why. And if you're ready to answer that question for yourself, you can schedule a free coaching consultation today at www.mayamson.com/contact. Because no matter what success means to you, coaching will help you get there faster and more sustainably. We work towards results in every area of your life. So if this is what you want, and you want some change in your life, and you want support in thinking through these decisions, these changes, you will want to book your free consultation at www.mayamson.com/contact. All right, my friends, I hope you have an amazing week. I will see you all next time.
Thanks so much for joining us this week on Own Your Best Life. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts so that you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, can you please rate and review on iTunes? I would so appreciate it. Share it with a friend, take a screenshot of it, and tag @MayEmson. This helps continue to get the word out. For more show notes and resources, check out www.mayemson.com. You'll have all the links to everything you heard here today. Thanks so much for listening. It's time to own your best life.